Hello. Turn that down. Oh, it's a new day. Eh, er, How's everybody doing? It's Monday, beginning of the week. Hope everybody's having a good week so far. Scooch this up this way a little bit so I got room for coffee. And okay, there we go. All right. How is everybody doing? I know Goddess is on. She'll probably be over a bit later. Uh, she is on streaming Stardew right now. We'll see her when she's free. I realize I made a mistake on this. Can I fix that? I'm probably not, but I can. This should be more like going for this year. Yeah, like disappears into the corner because that's actually going around the edge. I really shouldn't have connected it to the top of that. So we'll just do something else over here and we'll just make that look like it's supposed to be there. And regardless, it's going to be overwhelmed by all the stuff around it, I hope. All right. Well, I guess the intro is nice. Who am I? I don't know, just some freaking dude on the internet. My name is Bear. I am barely watercoloring. And I am what you see. I I randomly watercolor things. I try to keep it more spacey themed when I can. Then sometimes I try to go on the more technical route and try to learn some new things. And then I always come back to space because it's easy. It's what I know. It's what I'm quote unquote good at. That remains to be seen. Um, but I enjoy it. So that's what matters. So I guess that's, the only important part. Uh, what am I doing? Well, yeah, I'm wearing as usual. Eating some eating? Wow. Eating coffee. Eating coffee cake if I had it, maybe, but I'm drinking coffee. So what am I gonna do? Well, I'm working on this Voyager. I traced it from a Lightbox last week on Thursday. I used pens. I have these Winsor & Newton uh, indelible ink pens. They work incredibly well because I can paint over them and they won't bleed. Why I like them. So I went ahead and traced a Voyager sketch that I have. And then I'm going to get some masking fluid over the top of it today is my goal. So that when I'm ready to paint the space scene, I won't paint the ship too. And then when the space scene is done and dry and beautiful, I'll peel back all of the masking fluid and then we'll get to work painting the ship last. And then we should have a whole scene. That's how we're doing it. Today, though, we're just going to be doing the masking fluid portion. And then we're going to set it aside to dry. And then we're going to start looking at colors and then what type of space scene we're going to want to make. Because this is more important than what I usually do, I need to do a little bit of planning before I do anything. I'm not going to just wing it for the whole thing. So, without further ado, let's start with the masking part so we can get that done so it can be to the side drawing. So how am I going to do it? I have a variety of these sculpting tools, brushes, if you will, that are tipped with silicone, right? So I've got 5 of the ones this size, and then I've got 5 smaller ones as well that on their opposite ends have a metal tip on them, a little metal ball if I need to like nudge something to a corner. So I'll keep one of these down. And I think mostly what I'll use are these guys. They only have one side, but they have a variety of tip shapes. I won't need all of them by any means. I think to spread things around, I can probably use this kind of wedge shaped one or chisel, whatever we're going to call it. so I can put a good blob in the middle and get all the large spaces covered. Then I think I'll switch to a rounded point so that I can nudge it to the very edges of the ship. And then we're going to try to get a really good, decently thick coating the first time. Uh, I find when it dries and I try to go back over it with another pass, it starts to stick to itself and it tries to pull itself up a little bit sometimes. So I'll try to get it pretty decently thorough in one pass. We'll see how that goes. Aside from that, there's another couple of shapes here. This one's kind of neat. It's kind of like almost like a daggery kind of point. Focus. There we go. So it's got kind of like a wedge dagger combination. So that might be kind of useful for spreading. I might actually use that. It's got a nice point on it too. So yeah, maybe I'll keep this one down and I'll keep the pointy one down and the other ones will have to the side in case I need them. So yeah, let's start with that. I'm gonna do my best not to inhale this stuff because it's got a funk like the sea. So I'm gonna leave that alone. But I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna paint this stuff on right from the jar. Uh, and there is some of it caught at the top where it has dried and formed a little bit of runoff. And just peel that off of there. It is like a rubber, like a latex. So don't do like I did the last time I had it and shake it without thinking. Because anytime I've got a jar or something, I tend to have to shake it to make it distribute. This, you don't have to do that. In fact, I wouldn't suggest it because then it sticks to the inside of the lid and that whole area, and then it just adheres to it and dries, and then you've got a bunch of solid rubber. And you don't want that. So, all right. So let's take a look. I'm going to go ahead and use this interesting kind of dagger tip one and see how that goes for me. Okay, not too bad. I wonder if I'm going to do something stupid, potentially. I'm going to do just a tiny puddle in the middle, and I'm going to try to spread that around. I think that might be easier than trying to pick out a tiny bit at a time. And I can cover a pretty large area like this to start with. And while it's really, really wet, I think it'll move easier. When I pull it out a tiny bit at a time, I think it might be a bit more of a pain. So here, let me zoom in a little so you can see the massacre as I do it. Okay, I'll scoot that over. All right. So I'm going to focus on this. I'm going to get it close, but not all the way to the edge. And then we can focus on getting the edge bits covered. Something I'm also unsure of, I haven't really done a large area with the pen and then covered it with masking fluid. I know that from previous experimentation that pulling up masking fluid from an already painted surface pulls up the painted surface too. Maybe it depends on the type of paint. Maybe it depends on the type of paper, how wet it was, like make sure it's fully dry. I mean, that's obvious, but I mean, maybe it wasn't. So it's worth experimenting with again someday in the future. I might try that with like an experimentation sheet just to see how it responds. But typically, I think that's going to be a no. I think it's meant to go on raw paper and be blank underneath. The pen part of it, I don't know. We're gonna find out together when we go to pull this up later on. Uh, it might it might do well. It might not. We're just not gonna know until I pull this up. Hopefully it'll be fine. It's gonna be really hard to talk while I'm doing this because I want to focus. So forgive me if I go really quiet. I'm trying not to leave any white space. Um, outside the borderline, because the goal is to cover that outline area outside of it with space. So I'm trying to get like right up to it, but not over it. Like I almost wish I had done the outer border thicker. That might have been smarter. That way I'd be able to go halfway on it and halfway not with the masking fluid, but I think we'll be okay. There's still a good bit of it. Me bring a little over here. I'm definitely happier using this silicone tipped brushes here instead of bristles. Um, Anytime I've done painting this stuff on with bristles, it gets just unbelievably trapped in the bristles, and the brushes just eventually become completely unusable. Which for a little while I was using brushes, but I was using cheap brushes I didn't care about, so it didn't hurt as much when they became totally decimated. I'm gonna have to turn this because otherwise I'm not gonna be able to get to all the pieces. So forgive me if it goes slightly away from your view. I have a feeling at some point I'm gonna hear a deafening raid. I think Goddess said she was gonna raid over whenever she's done playing, but that could be a while from now. We'll see. I was expecting to hear that loud sound effect of the raid go through. Okay, I think we're okay there. Let's continue this line. Ah, give me back my ear. There we go. Okay. I'm very happy. It's going to be a nice, peaceful week. I hope, knock on wood. It is just a 3-day work week because of Thanksgiving. If you're watching from outside of America, we have Thanksgiving on Thursday of this week. So that's fun. Okay, I think I'm going to turn this around. Let me get the masking fluid way the hell up over here and out of the way. I'm going to turn this way for now. All right. Okay. All right, let's continue this on and upward. I realize this is such a critical part. I need to take my time with it. My instinct is to want to rush through stuff sometimes. I need to really not do that, especially with this. I'm just kind of bringing some of the puddle while it's still really wet closer to the edge. And I'll probably pour a tiny bit more over here when I get to it. Okay. Yeah, I really like this. This particular brush works really well. I say brush. I don't really know what you call it when it's for modeling. A tool, I guess. Okay, that's still a big puddle. And I can bring some of that over. I don't want to thin it out so much though that it becomes difficult to use. But I think worst case, I can pour another tiny amount on top and spread it over the layer instead of trying to do it a tiny piece at a time. But yeah, I think we're at the point where I'm gonna have to add a little bit more. I'm less inclined to pour, but I'm going to very carefully. Oops. Add. Ooh, stop, stop. Okay. That went where it wanted, and it just followed the flow of the stuff that's already there. So we're gonna have to be really careful with it. Okay. It's a collage of it. And so I realized too that I have a decision to make around the area where I am right now and on the other side. The engine has a few components that tend to put off a glow effect into the space around it. And I'm going to have to figure out how I'm going to do that. I don't have to do the in space glow effect. I can keep it just on the engines and like the body of the ship and just let space around it be space. Or I can plan ahead and make sure that I leave a little bit of room for space to shine through and the glow effect to shine through. So that's a possibility. I didn't really think it through. That's something I could do. Well, it starts getting fiddly right there. And the little impulse engines. I think I put too much. We'll see. Worst case, I can probably touch that tiny bit up when I peeled it off. Let me try this. Okay, so turn it again. It's going to get really finicky. I'm going to have to be really careful so I don't screw something up. Okay. So I am going to try to get this bit right here up to this edge. Okay. There's a lady singing in my ear. Okay. I think I'm going to have to dip for the remaining portion. Let me be really careful about this. Feels like that didn't even get on the brush. Let's try it again. And what is the tiniest little puddle? I'm going to bring it up here. Okay. So you usually this around to all the areas that need it before it dries up. Ah, stop drying. I'm not ready. All right. Almost done. Right. I'm just turning this so I can get just this last little bit, and then we'll do some touch up. And from here, I'm just going to take any of the remaining, like, wet, like, puddled areas, and I'm going to try to use those to thicken the areas that are kind of like a shallow amount. Or if I can see the line work through it heavily, I'm going to try to thicken those areas up. Because another issue I've had is if it's too thin, when I go to pull it up, I'll find that I accidentally left gaps that I couldn't see. So I'm trying to make sure to cover everything up fairly evenly. I think the whole first area is good, but I might go over it with a second layer. Let me grab a piece of paper towel. Give me 2 seconds. All right, I think that's good. Let me go ahead and I'm going to spill just the tiniest amount. Right there. Move that away. And let's spread this around a little bit. Make sure it gets on all of this area where I'm seeing the ship, the hull designed through it. And that's the scary part where the dry part, when I bring some of the fresh masking fluid on top of the already dried part, it wants to come back with it. So I have to be really freaking careful with it. So lessons, work fast and carefully while it's wet, because once it dries, it becomes very stretchy, like rubber, because it is. So I'm finding that I can dab with it a tiny bit, and that lets me touch it up on the fringes. So I think that works. And then ultimately, there's going to be so much space around the ship that I'm hoping it's going to hide the crimes a little bit. To coin a phrase from Adam Savage from Mythbusters, he said that a lot. Says, still, he's still around. If you don't watch him, please check out Tested on YouTube. Adam Savage has a channel on YouTube where he pretty much continues doing building and all the stuff that made him like have his claim to fame. And it's just a great channel because he's such a genuinely good person. And it's so fun to see the way that he's a good person, just naturally, just doing what he does. He's a real delight. And he's got a lot of really great advice just about everything, about the work, about being a maker. I mean, he's one of the main reasons I'm doing this. I incredibly appreciate he is incredibly anti gatekeeping. And if for some reason have been hiding out in a barrel somewhere for the last like decade, gatekeeping is kind of what it sounds like. It's whenever there is a a skill, a task, an art, a trade, a genre, whatever you want to call it, where there's people that are really, really good at it, and they think that people cannot come in at a lesser capacity. So they try to gatekeep and prevent, or say you're not a real fill in the blank. You're not a real cabinet maker. You're not a real woodworker. You're not a real metal worker, a real artist, a real model maker. Like you're not real at any of the things you do because you didn't spend the time or the effort or skill I did, Mr. Better Than Thou or Mrs. Better Than Thou, in getting to where I am. You'll never reach my level, scrub, basically, right? So gatekeeping, they try to make it look like it's such an incredible difficulty to get into a field that you might be interested in that they think they should be just running a show in. And so they'll gatekeep you. They'll say things to put you down, say that you don't have the skill. And sometimes it's far less terrible sounding than that. Sometimes it can be a slight, you know, attack without really feeling like an attack, even on the part of the person who's doing the gatekeeping. They don't realize they're doing it. So it's just don't always take it as an attack against you. It could be just someone's instinct, but know that you can literally do anything you want at any level. There are people out there just like you and people out there not like you in both directions, both better and lesser capabilities than you in this moment. It does not mean that you can't learn how to do the things you need to do. And it especially doesn't mean that you can't learn how to be very specific in the things that you know. You don't have to be perfect in every aspect of the genre that you're getting interested in. You can become very good at very specific things and become better than those gatekeepers at it. And they're just going to be jealous of you because you did something that they could not figure out as a generalist. You specialized in, and became great at. So that exists, just know it's out there. Everyone else, the 99.9% of you that already knew all that, I realize I probably explained it poorly, but I think it's pretty spot on. It is the reason why I didn't start doing one of the reasons I didn't start doing anything incredibly hobby like painting wise because it felt like I could never keep up with the professionals. And if I've learned anything, people that are professionals are not always great, and people who are total newbies could stay that forever. And all of those options in between are fine. Nothing wrong with that. Uh, so don't let anyone talk you down from doing something you want to do. If you want to do something, you just go out there and you try it. Um, I would just say try not to be discouraged. Know that everybody starts somewhere. I know you've heard that, but we're not going to repeat that a whole lot. But it is true. Everybody starts somewhere. I started what, like April of last year, I think it was, somewhere thereabouts, with no previous artistic works. And sometimes I feel like that's exactly where I'm at still, but then I will stop. I will go on like watercoloring Reddit or just a very a varying display of places and find people that have been doing it for a decade. And I realize that in the few things that I do well, or I feel like I do well, I'm actually doing all right in. Um, Not to disparage other people's works, but just to show that, it takes all types of people to do all types of things. So don't ever feel like you are lesser in trying something that you've never done. I think we've covered every piece of this where it needs to be. So I am going to stop there. Uh, I'm going to close up so I don't form a film on the top of this. My masking fluid still surprisingly about feels like it's half full. No, it's more than half full. It just looks less than that because it's a long neck. It's still pretty high up the container. I'm currently at about the top of the N in Windsor Newton in how full it is when it's standing upright. So it's actually quite a lot still in here because the container gets wider on the bottom. It looks like ads are going, so I'll give that a minute. I'm going to go ahead and blast this with some fire gun from a distance for a second, just to seal off the top of it. Okay. I don't want to overheat it because I have no idea what making this rubber, the cement like really hot does. So I'm going to leave it alone. And I'm going to set this to the side. So let me make some brim over here and start gathering up some of the separating need for the next bit. Um, Give me 2 seconds. You are going to come over here. You can go underneath. These can go underneath. Some of this I don't need. I just have it out. So you can go here. A bunch of extra stuff I don't need right now, but I just need the space. You go here. I don't even need you right now necessarily. We're going to put you there. Move that over. Okay. That should be safe and protected now. All right. So masking part of the day, done. That can be completed. Let me clean up some of the side stuff. This was the Voyager that I was using. Which one did I go to? Yes, I had this one. This was ChatGPT's first attempt at converting the image I chose to a black and white outline, and I didn't quite like some of the choices it made. This is the second version, the one I'm using right now. You can see where I had to do some manual labor to get this side working, which didn't quite work out, but we're going to paint over it mostly, so it'll be fine. And then at some point, I'd like to do this, the Enterprise G or Titan from Picard Season 3. I love the look of this ship, the Constitution 2 class. So at some point, I'll figure that one out. Clearly, it's a lot more lines and fine detail compared to the Voyager that I'm working on. So clearly, this is a much later project. I'll figure that out later. Because of how thin some of the lines are, I might have to trace it once on like tracing paper or something to make thicker lines. I don't know. I'll figure something out. It seems to be visible through the light box, so I might just stick with it. I have to put this in a drawer. Let me find a good spot for it. Yeah, you'll work. Okay. Actually, I can use this. So what am I doing next? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let me put this also in a drawer. Take this out in case I need it. Okay. I've got this good piece of paper I will hold to the side. This piece of arches I pulled out when I was trying to decide how big I wanted that Voyager painting to be. Hello. That's loud. Next. Um, and boy. All right, what are we doing now? So, good question. Let me get a couple sketch pieces of paper out because I'm going to need a few, I think, so I can lay on paper that I don't quite care about. Because we are going to be playing with colors at first. Okay, so let me. Do I still have it up? I think I do. This guy. Show it. Yeah, that's all right. Let me unlock it so I can make it bigger. Okay. And I wonder if I can crop this. What is it in this app? That one right there. That can go there. Okay. And that can come down this way. All right. And we're going to hit done. Blammo. We've got ourselves a cropped image. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so you can see it. Okay. So, even though this is a like cartoony version of the ship, it's the one that I based the image that I traced from, on. And one big thing that it's got that I'm going to need to recreate are the brighter, colorful red and blue bits from the engines and the torpedo bays and all that sort of stuff. White will be easy. White's pretty straightforward. I should be fine with that. But these are typically my bane, right? They're a bit difficult for me to get the colors right. So we're going to whip out every paint I've got that has stuff in that realm so we can do some color comparisons. So I've got a few different paint options. I have my existing palette, and we can go through the reds and the blues that I have on this palette, and we'll try to do a gradient swatch of each of the reds, each of the blues, and we'll try to do a long gradient so we can see from thick to midtones to like a thin lighter cast for every one of my colors. And we'll try to match the blues and the reds as close as we can, and we can pick which ones we're going to end up using. But we're going to go through my existing palette. I realize I can zoom it out because I don't need to be quite so up close with this. So we're going to do my existing palette. I've got the Winsor Newton cotton set, which is the simple set of colors. But when I did a swatch of them, they're beautiful. Like, they're gorgeous. Let me pull out the swatches I've got, because I've got most of this already done, but we can do new ones just for what we're doing right now. So this is the swatch of my palette, the one that's laying on the table there. So we've got a version of that. For this set, I have this one. This is the swatch of that set. And it's a gorgeous set. I very much like its colors. They're really, really pure. So I will do some tests of this palette as well, right? I have this one. It's not all of them, but this is a good portion of my liquid watercolors in swatch form as well. So we're going to do some of those so we can see what they look like. And then last but not least, this Kuretake set. The Kuretake set is a tiny bit more opaque watercolor. It's kind of like in between watercolor and gouache in a way. I looked this brand up. I looked up how you're meant to use them, and it's like a Japanese styled set. So it behaves differently than just standard watercolor. And you can kind of tell this is the swatch I did of that. Hey, Desert, the ultramarine blue is so vibrant in the liquid. Ultramarine. Did I have an ultramarine blue in this one? Yes, this one? Yes, it is. It is. I have it out here. That's Phalo. That's the Cerulean. Here it is. Yeah. This ultramarine blue dark, it's this Aquafine brand. This guy right here. Like even in the bottle, it's beautiful. Like it is a gorgeous blue color. All right. So yeah, that one right there came out absolutely gorgeous. I like the Cerulean. I might do a combination. For the engines, I was already thinking Cerulean. I've done some research online like months ago. When I was trying to do a similar thing, I was doing a bunch of sample Star Trek like engines from Side Profile, so I could do just this. And I was trying out some of my paints, and this was the closest I had. And looking it up online, the color that they typically use on the show, or the warp nacelle, the blue part, is a cerulean or an offshoot of it. So it makes sense that it's that color. But we may do a blend of like maybe it and ultramarine. Cerulean is an amazing color. It's a beautiful blue to begin with, but it has this rich paleness, like a kind of like a blue sky color to it that just a lot of other blues don't have. It's really pretty. And it's very, very even too, which is good for the engine. It's incredibly even and consistent across it. So it's really pretty. It's probably the one we're going to use, but I want to try them all. Hey! Goddess
Whispers just traded with 4 viewers.
Text to speech. I always forget it's there. Hey, Goddess, welcome in. Thanks for raiding in. I want to say, how was your Stardew Valley? But I know because I was watching all of it except for the last hour. Well, most of it. I realized I did miss like the first part of the hour because I was finishing up work. But I caught the middle. I caught a portion of it. Anyway, how are you doing? Welcome in. Let me back up a little bit and show you what I'm doing. The short version. So I finished, excuse me, I finished the masking fluid part of the Voyager. It's still drying, but I finished doing the masking off part, and I'm putting this to the side, 1 to dry and 2 because I'm not going to finish working on it today. But what I'm going to do is work on what I'm planning to do around it and on some of the brighter colored parts of the ship. So like the engines, the nacelles, that sort of thing. The red and blue glows. I want to try to get them not perfect, but as close as I can. So I'm going to go through my entire palette with some sample paper, and we're going to try the blues and the reds that I've got to try to show as close as I can get to those ship colors. So I know which ones we're going to go with when we actually put them on the actual ship. And I'm going through my entire palette, and thankfully I've got swatches of everything already, but I'm going to make separate ones because we might try to do some blends. Hi, Vegas. Welcome in. Came in with Goddess, I'm guessing. Welcome on in. I appreciate you being here. Yeah, I've got a bunch of colors, and I'm trying to figure out which ones to choose. So my primary palette is this large swatch right here. I have this Winsor Newton Cotman set. which seems small, but is actually really mighty. I haven't used a lot. You can tell it's pretty unused. I did just enough to be able to make this swatch from it. And it's honestly one of my cleanest swatches. It's actually a really incredible color quality. And that's their like, not student, but like the mid grade quality of their stuff. It's like professional stuff to me anyway. It's beautiful. That sap green is just gorgeous. I should use this palette more often. And I might be today. We'll find out. This swatch is not all, but most, I think, I think most of my liquid watercolors. I normally only bring these out to do liquid watercolors on mineral paper, because it flows really nicely on that kind of plasticky, stony paper. So I've got some examples of that here. And then the last bit I was just showing off as Goddess Rated In is the Kuretake set that I've got. It's this large palette of, it's kind of like a blend of watercolor and gouache a little tiny bit. It's just like slightly thicker than normal watercolor. And this is what the swatch of that looks like. And I've got some pretty options in here too that we might look at, right? That might be pretty good for some of the blues and whatnot. So I'm going to go through each, just the reds and the blues. And then if we like some, we may try doing some mixing to try to get somewhere close to what we want to do for the Starship engine bits, the blues and the reds for everything. Um, and that's probably where we'll end up today. Who knows? This might take a whole hour. And then the goal after that, if there were time, we'll find out, is to figure out what type of nebula we want to do. So I'll go ahead and pose the question now. So considering what I'm doing with this scene, my goal here, that got way louder than I wanted it to be. Turn down. Um, my goal with this is the ship is going to be at warp, heading toward a nebula in the distance over in this corner, right? So if you know anything about the ship, nacelles up mean they're at warp. So when this is done, it's going to be a space scene, the nebula of some sort that they're heading towards on purpose. And you're going to end up having not only stars, we're going to have like the warp lines showing that we're at speed when we're done. So keep that in your mind. And what we want to figure out primarily, what's going to go in this space? What's going to be the nebula? That's going to be what we're heading towards. So we've got some options. One, options of nebula type items that were in the show. So keeping it somewhat canonical, right? So if you remember some or can look up some online and you're like, hey, I found a really nice one, it's really pretty, consider that it's Voyager and that they're in the Delta Quadrant in that corner of the galaxy. It's something that should be generally along their path where they would have hit it along the way home, right? Along those lines, consider outside the box of the TV, outside the idiot box, figure out nebula that might be real nebula that are in that general vicinity or just somewhere in the galaxy. We'll just assume it's near where they are. God, that is so loud. God, I had that music going and it's just blasting in my ears. Sorry. Um, so figure out either a nebula from the show, from Voyager, that they would have encountered in the show, nebula that are real, that we're going to put them at. Maybe it wasn't on the show, but let's say it was on their path home and they stopped off at it without actually being a part of the show because it was just routine and nothing happened, right? But they went to famous nebula. That's real. And we'll show it from the perspective that we've seen with our satellites. And we'll even do the false color imagery representation of it. It's fantasy, so we get to do what we want. It's not going to be just gray or brown. Or the third option, we do what we want. We come up with entirely our own imagery, and you guys can help me pick out like the colors for it. So try to think about that. If you feel like volunteering some possibilities, consider along those lines for me. Anything from those options or anything in between, feel free to suggest possibilities and we'll entertain them as we go. But we probably won't get to painting those sampled today. But my goal is, once you've got the colors figured out for the ship, we'll start doing some of our ideas for what kind of nebula we want to do in miniature in a couple quadrants. We'll get some favorites and we'll reproduce them in smaller scale here before we blow it up on a large sheet of paper. So I don't make any major mistakes on that. All right. So that's what that's for. I'll just leave this paper to the side for now. I don't need it just yet because I'm going to test my colors on this cheapy paper. It's this box of like Amazon special 5x7. I don't know what the pound is, but the GSM on it is 230. So you can do the translation for that online. It's thin. I got it on purpose because it can run through my printer if I want to print stencils or something on them to then paint on top of. Downside being is it's so thin that if I do a thick layer of paint, it ripples and buckles badly. So I've relegated it to use for scratch paper and samples, which is great for what we're doing right now. Enough yammering. Let's get to work. So I'm going to set the big set to the side for now. I'm going to set this to the side for the liquid watercolors, which are also off to the side for now. I'll set the small palette of the Winsor Newton stuff off to the side. And let's start with our normal full-size palette. So I'm going to leave this over here. I'll bring the palette over. I'll grab one of these scratch sheets. Let me grab a small round brush that I can play with. I think you'll do kind of nicely. Size 6, I think. Yep, size 6 round. Let me turn the music back on and make sure it's not blasting anymore. It's there, but we'll see. If the music's too loud or too quiet, let me know. All right. So I'm going to start with just what the colors are, pure they are, and I'll try to do some long washes or long gradients with it. Let me spray the palette a little bit. This is a list of music that's supposed to be like space inspired. And it is. I've heard this song on Elite Dangerous, the video game. When you're docking, I think it's one of the ones they use. It's a fun game. It's slow. That game's a slow burn. If you've never played Elite Dangerous, any of the Elite games, they're pretty much like as close as they could get in their era for space simulation games. Set in our universe in the future. So it's currently they're exploring the galaxy. There's like a bubble, which is like a big populated section where all the star systems have been pretty much touched on and inhabited or visited by everybody there. And then there's the area outside the bubble where it's pretty much free and open range for you to pick a direction and just go and explore. You can do pretty much anything in that game. You can be pirates. You can raid people, blow up their ships. You can go on bounty hunting missions to attack those guys and turn them in. You can be a miner. You can just go on exploration and scan systems and get data about the systems you're in. And it's all like semi-real time. So if you set a destination and you're at like a lower light speed, you could be traveling across the system for 20 minutes in real life. So it makes you feel like you're in space, but with some advanced technology, but it still takes time. You know what I mean? Faster than it would be in Star Trek in a way. Yeah, that's enough yammering about that shit. Let's take a look at our colors. So the first one I'll do is my top left one from my Mary Blue. It's called Quinacridone Red, the one up here on the top left. Get some water. Oh, hey, you know what'd be helpful? Some paper towels. I'm gonna need it. Give me the okay. Finally got some new paper towels. I got some of the it's by a brand called Viva, which ironically is or used to be a really cheap brand, but they've got this one that's kind of like almost cloth-like. That's like a really good quality. I'm hoping it's going to be good for watercolor. So we'll see how it goes. My other my other paper towels were kind of like falling apart. They got too wet and they were just kind of like sopping wet. So I'm hoping this will go a little nicer. Okay, let's start. That is not enough water. All right. Quinacridone red. Get a little bit in the color. Fun, fun, fun. Fun, 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 fun. Help these paper towels work better. That is cooler. They are cloth like. Yeah, I think that's really neat. Weirdly, I didn't like them. Like we got them years ago for something else. I think just normal household use, and I didn't like them because they were cloth like. And then I started watercolor painting, and after using the regular paper towels for a while, I realized they were kind of like they would just get sopping wet really quick, and then they would stay sopping wet. And I'm hoping these will absorb a little bit more so I can use them longer because I was going through those other paper towels. And yeah, they're really nice, like texture. Like if you tear them, you can see the fibers in them. Whereas in regular paper towels, they just rip and disappear, right? So yeah. Let's go ahead and hit our next color. It is primary red magenta. Primary red magenta, which is a little nicer because it's got a kind of like a slight blue, uh, almost like rose kind of color to them in a way. Right, let me spin that up a little bit. Okay. Next up is permanent red light, and that's the last red we've got. At least on this palette. Yeah, this one I don't think we'll use. We might. I'm judging early. I should reserve judgment until we're actually at the point where it's all dry and we can hold it up next to items. But my instinct is this one is more of a orange tinge. But we'll see. We'll see. It might be fine. There we go. All right, let's move on to our blues. We have a lot of them, but I think I'm going to pick the ones that are in the range of what we might use. So I'm going to skip some of the obvious ones that won't work. I'm not going to do indigo. I'm not going to do turquoise green. I'm not going to do Prussian blue, even though they're pretty. I'm going to hit these two, like ultramarines. They're the closest to that blue. I don't want to waste time and space working on ones that don't work for this. All right. My ultramarines are these two. This first one right here is the Ultramarine Deep by My Mary Blue. So far, everything's been by My Mary Blue. All right. I'm guessing we hit the end of that playlist. Whoops. All right. And next up is the first non-My Mary Blue is French Ultramarine by Winsor Newton. Okay. So these are the main colors we're looking at for the engines and all those areas on the ship. Let's dry this off really quick. And we will set it to the side. Man, once this dries, I'll show you how cheap this paper is. Like, literally taking the heat gun to this paper with nothing on it warps it. It's super cheap paper. But it's good for what I wanted it for originally, so I'm fine with that. Drive! Drive! All right, well, there's a little bit of a puddle on that one, so I'm going to let it dry naturally the rest of the way. However, I can probably use a pen. Is this side dry at least? Not fully. No, I could probably come back and write this on. I forgot that I should have written down what the names of them are underneath. I'll do that for all the rest, and then I'll come back to this one when it's dry, and I'll just write underneath where I'm going to paint, because this is indelible, and let it dry for a second, and then I'll paint over it, and then it'll have the name of it underneath it. But what I can do is say this is from my primary palette. Okay. Put it to the side. Let this dry somewhere where it's not going to fall on my pretty Voyager that I've worked so hard on so far. All right. Also going to snag some coffee, drink if you got them. We're still doing good on ads. Looks like we got ads in 5 minutes. Next, let me move my palette over. Okay. Get that out of my way. And let's go ahead and get this Winsor Newton palette in here. And I think I'm going to go up in size on that pen because that one was kind of thin when I was writing that down. Get over here. Go in the thing. Oh my God. Get in there. Here we go. Right. So this one is my Windsor. Am I spelling that right? Win S-O-R. Yeah. And Newton Patman. Okay. I guess I can get the colors out. It is. Yes. Yeah. Try to keep the box for all these sorts of things that don't have the colors clearly labeled on the palette. So I've got all of them written. How well that's going to focus that close. Yeah, not bad. Yeah. So I've got the colors here. And we're going to be looking at these reds and blues. I think there's only really the one red on there. I don't even know how to say that. Alizarin? We'll go with it. Ultramarine and cerulean blue. So we've got 2 ceruleans. We got this one. So let's go ahead and write that down. So the first one is alizarin. Crimson. We're going to do ultramarine. Okay. And then cerulean blue hue. Okay. Let's try them out. I'm not going to bother wetting the palette down. I'm just going to use a little water and scrub. See the other one we have, I guess we can do another one. Let me look at I have right here. No, I've got a cadmium red on here as well, but it's very orange, this top one right here. So I'm skipping that one. I'm going to start with this kind of rose colored one, the alizarin. All right. Pop, 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 pop. Okay. And I put that right there. And let's sit. I might have sent that too much. It's a side effect, I think, of not spraying it down. I don't get a huge amount on the first pass. There we go. There we are. Yeah, that looks orange. Yeah, that's a cadmium. So cadmium is pretty orange on its own, but cadmium red pale is what that third option is. It is reddish, but it's like a really vibrant red orange color, which is beautiful. It's just not it's not red Star Trek engine color. Okay, a little bit thinner. All right. Next, ultramarine. Ultramarine is this one. Scroll on it for a minute. I have a cadmium, I think a cadmium orange or something on that Kuretake set, which we'll get to in a minute. That is gorgeous. Gorgeous. I'll show that in a minute. Okay, so this is the Winsor Newton Cotman Ultramarine. Yeah, see, I just have to really scrub the palette to start with so I can get a really rich version of it. Okay, now let's grab that part way, bring it over. Okay, rinse that, grab a little water, grab that part way, and then bring it all the way over. All right. Next up, cerulean blue. Ceruleans are the colors I'm looking for, probably for the warp nacelle. It's, I think, going to be the closest we can get to that Star Trek shiny blue color. How's everybody doing? It's Monday, so it's hopefully should be a good start of the week for everybody. I'm hoping, especially on Thanksgiving week. I'm hoping most workplaces that aren't retail slow down this time of year. But I know they don't. I know I worked retail, I worked food, I worked IT support. I'm on like basically IT life support right now. So I get it. I'm hoping y'all are having a good week, a peaceful one. Hopefully people decided to stop touching things and let things just rest without causing any additional harm to people's infrastructure. But we know that doesn't happen. People keep screwing around with stuff to the last damn minute and then are like, why aren't things working? Why? All right. All right. All right. Almost feels like a waste of paper not filling up the whole page with stuff, but I've done that already. So, all right. Let me scoot some of this to the side. Bop, 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 bop. Stay. All right. And let me hit this with my hot air gun. Get the pads. Understood. Uh, Okay. Looks like as are finishing up. I'll let that finish thinking about itself for a minute. I will close this stuff. We don't need this anymore. That's not the right drawer. It's the right drawer. All right. And that can go there. All right. Okay. Hopefully ads are over or will be over shortly. Here are the three main colors from this particular palette. The ones for Newton Cotman. Yep, ads over. Thank you. Appreciate that. So here's what they look like. So far at first glance, the cerulean is looking pretty nice, especially when I start light. That can be pretty cool. So that is an option. My hand cramped up for a second. The edges are also nice. You can see on the engine, right on the very fringe, right on the edge where it touches like the housing of the ship, it goes like a dark blue color, and this cerulean's even nice for that little fringe effect, I think. So the time comes and I'm painting the engine and any of the red areas that have a glow effect on the housing of the ship around them. I'm going to put the engine colors and all these reds and everything in. Ooh, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. I might be able to get away with this for the blue. I was thinking I was going to do an underpainting of the blue and the red. I think I'm only going to do the underpainting of the blue. I might need to do some tests on even this same sheet to try to scrub it a little bit to see how much it comes up with water. Because if I go over this with the hull color, it might try to scrub it up. I just want it to go over it. So I might want to do like a reverse kind of glazing and do the blue color over the top and leave the engine vacant. So as weird as it sounds, later I may have to pull up the masking fluid and then mask the red and the blue portions that are going to be painted in with those colors and paint the hull in around it. Then pull up that second layer of masking fluid to do the engines last. It's a lot to think about. I'll have to figure that out as time goes. But right now we're just picking out colors. I'm thinking too far ahead. So that's this set. Let me set this down with the paint set. My rinse water is turning a nice little lavender kind of color. Because all I'm doing is painting reds and blues. All right. Next up, let's look at our liquid watercolor. So we have a lot of options, but I only took out 6 to look at, and they're on here. These 3 red options and these 3 blue options. The first red one is quinacridone. I'm always questioning if I'm saying that right, but quinacridone magenta. That's this guy right here. Yeah. So there's that one. Then cadmium red hue. That's this one. That's one that's a little bit more orange. Kind of like an orange reddish color. It's cadmium red. The last red option is called Flame Red. It's by a different brand. The other 2 are Aquafine. This one is Dollar Brownie. And it is an acrylic. So that one I might not use at all because it's acrylic ink and not watercolor, but we'll see how it looks. For the blue team, we've got the one I'm probably going to use if I don't use the Winsor Newton. It's another cerulean. This one is Cerulean Hue. It's this one right here. So Aquafine. I guess the other one was the same brand. It was just the acrylic. It's the same thing, just acrylic. Next blue is, I think, the ultramarine. Yeah. Ultramarine blue dark. which dragons, desert dragon lovers said that they really like earlier. It's this pretty blue one right here. It does this row right there. It's quite pretty. And then last up, which I almost definitely won't use, but it's still pretty to do, is a phthalo blue. This guy right here. It looks richer in liquid form, and then when it dries, it kind of darkens up. But it's a gorgeous color as well. I've always loved phthalo blue, but phthalo blue is just a really pretty shade of blue. Absolutely gorgeous. All right. So we're going to do those. How am I going to do them? What a damn good question. I'm glad I've got you guys here for that. Where did I put my other paper? Oh, you know what? I think I covered them. I did. All right. There we go. All right. I think what I'm going to do for these, I'll need to write them down first, and then we can experiment. So let me write down the names. I'll say that these are my watercolor inks. Okay. First up is Clan Magenta. Okay. Next up is Cadmium Red Hue. Next is Flame Red. Next will be our blue team. That is, why did I spell it like that? Oh, that's how they spelled it on the same. They spell their cerulean different. They do C-A-E-R. We'll reproduce that. C-A-E-R. Maybe it's like a European print or spelling or something. I was going to say pronunciation. Okay. Next up is Ultra Green, Blue, Dark. And then last up, we don't really need, but we're going to do it anyway because it's beautiful, is Phthalo. I spell it wrong. I'm still spelling it wrong. Why is it spelled that way? That's so weird. Does anyone know where the word phthalo came from? Because I'm spelling it way wrong. It's P-H-T-H-A-L-O. Or at least it is on this brand. I just throws my brain off. Phthalo blue. Okay. And then let's get to testing then. First up, get my brush wet, have it to the side. I'm going to shake up the Clan Magenta. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a dot on the far left, and I'll just use the water to bring it over. Okay. So let's try to do one dot right there. And let's see what that looks like when we spread it, because a little goes a long way with this stuff. And then it's been a while, but at some point I will whip out the watercolor inks and we'll do a mineral paper painting. It's been a while, mainly because painting on mineral paper takes an eternity to dry. So once I start one, I literally can't do anything else. I can't move it. I can't dry it because the paper, the material the paper is made of, curls when I try to dry it with a heat gun. All I can do is let it air dry, and it takes hours for it to air dry. So it's the kind of thing I can only start at the end of a stream and then show you next time once it's dried. Like, it's so hard to do. So I may end up doing that at some point at the end of the stream, have it ready to go. We pick what we're going to do and how, or we just go abstract to hell and just play with it. And then we just create them, leave them wet, sign off, and then the stream, I turn it right back on, right where they sat, and you see what they look like after they dried. That's literally it. Because, boy, let me tell you, once they're wet and they're there, you cannot move them at all. Okay, next up, Cadmium Red Hue. That spread it really nicely. I'll do that same process, putting a dot down and then spreading it over. That works really nice. Still very wet, but I'll dry it here in a minute. Okay, cadmium red. This one's very full, so I'll do just a little dot right there. Okay. All right. Wet the brush. It's pretty damp. Let's try to get it spread out in a way that doesn't touch the one next to it. I didn't plan that ahead, so I'll probably just need to be careful. If I was smarter about this, I would have spread them further apart. But nobody ever said I was smart. Wow, that's just coming along with it. I have to really thin that out at the end there. Or, it'll just keep flowing and I won't have any options. Literally just grab the tail end of it. Yeah, it's bleeding right along into it. It's fine. Worst case scenario for nearly all of these, I've got them all already on a separate swatch card, so we'll just compare them to each other. Okay, next up, flame red. Flame. The flames. Ah. God, these are sometimes so hard to open. I need one of those, oh, what are they called? Those little gripper things you can get to open up jars, like the little rubber, like thin, like little mat things. It just gives you better grip strength when opening up jars. I could use something like that for this. I mean, it's the same thing. I could just get one of those and call it a day. And then I won't have to struggle so much when I'm opening those up. It's a good idea. Okay, and let's send it out. Okay, and let's send it out some more. And send it out a lot. Okay, next up, we're going to our blue team. Whee! First up, Cerulean, or Carillion. Cerulean. Is it Cerulean? Cerulean. Man, I'm telling you. I'm not spelling these things right. All right. I would love to get some more of these watercolor inks. If anybody knows where they are on sale at some point in the future, please let me know. I got the ones that I've got on sale at Michael's, I think it was, from their clearance section, because I think they were stopping selling a lot of them. So they just got rid of all of them. I would like to get some more of different colors because I have a lot, but I don't have a huge selection. I'd love to have some different ones. I haven't really tried, but I feel it's kind of difficult to mix them before painting with them because they are liquid. Like I would have to use like a temporary palette, like the one I've got sitting in the corner right here, one of these. And I could probably mix, but I feel like it'd be a lot more difficult to mix because they're so, wow, I got paint all over myself. Where did that come from? Oh, right there from the paper towels. I didn't even notice that. Let's see if I can get some of that off. I need to think about that. All right. Palm print, fingerprint. Anyway, yeah, I'd love to find some more of those. I do have to look. I try to keep an eye out a few times when we go into a Michael's, but I think after that first time, they just aren't there anymore. So I'll have to probably find them online and just get something. Yep, I'm just gonna have to scrub my hand. That's all there is to it. I got paint everywhere. Everywhere. Okay. Well, whatever. Next, let's do the ultramarine blue dark. Blue dark. We're gonna do one little dot, right? Yeah. Go back on. No. There we go. And okay. Let's spread that around. Wow. I almost feel like I didn't put enough. Yeah, I might add some more of that. Let me just spread this down all the way down. Just put a tiny touch more of that on there at the end. Okay. I don't know why it's like not as rich. There we go. That's a little better. I just had to mean it. That's all. Right. Yeah, there we go. That's a little better. All right. I'll let that think about what it did. Last up, phthalo blue. Dude. Yeah, that sounds crusty. I must have gotten some of it up on the top of it. So when I open and close it now, it like makes noises. Okay. There's some Wawa. Oh yeah, this one's such a pretty color. Oh my god, it's so gorgeous. This one just screams paint ocean with me. Me and like a turquoise color. We go together well. I have to figure out how to do like a really pretty ocean scene at some point. I've done like ocean surface, but never like underwater. I've always wanted to, and I'm kind of scared to mess it up. But I realized that it's kind of exactly the same thing as space in a way. So I shouldn't be so scared of it. But I don't know. It's just difficult to think about. All right. So that's the last of the mineral color options. Let me dry this off. And then we will go on to our last option, the Kuretake set. And then we'll go back to the first one, write in the names, and then we will compare them all. All right, let's try this off. All right. That one's almost entirely dry. Um, I'm telling you, every time I use these watercolor inks, I'm impressed by how fluid. I mean, I didn't mean for that to be a pun, but it kind of is. But how fluid they are. They're just absolutely gorgeous. Like, look at how some of them flow and blend. They're even prettier when they blend together, which is why I love doing them on mineral paper because they blend together so beautifully. But God, look at how rich some of those colors are. Isn't that amazing? So when looking at our ship, the cerulean is beautiful. However, semicolon or comma, um, you see the problem where it kind of goes from one color to the next, but it doesn't quite hit that in between. They all kind of have that problem. They don't do like midtones incredibly well. I don't think without diluting them separately. Um, I would have to dilute them with a tiny bit of water and then try painting them separately. So I may do that with the liquid ink ones on their own and just do different concentrations of water. Like we'll do one dropper of the pigment from the container with one drop of water from like my water pipettes. My brain went stupid. We'll do like one drop, two drops, three drops from this guy with to one drop of the ink, and we'll see what diluting it does with certain amounts of water in it to get a good gauge on what the color looks like at the end. Because this does a good job of showing the beginning, the end, but not quite the middle, except for that phthalo blue. Even then, you can see like a hard stop where it stops being rich and goes into being more faint. It doesn't spread into the mid-tone range really well. But regardless, the cerulean is gorgeous. It is a good option. We might use it, especially like if we look at that edge right there. If we get that consistency, that's a pretty close option. It's not like glowing, but I don't think we're ever going to get proper like a glowing effect. It's super hard to achieve. You can try, but no guarantees. All right. So that one's done. Let me scoot that over here. And let's last take a look at our Kuretake set. So here is the Kuretake set. This is what the cover of the packaging looks like. Here is the inside cover gives you a little swatch thing I did not use because I wanted to do a full page one. But it gives you one with the names in multiple languages. I said Japanese earlier. That was Chinese, so it's probably Chinese. Like Chinese watercolor. We'll see. I don't actually remember. No, Japanese. It says Zenlon.jp. Oh, made in Japan in English. Duh. Yep. So it gives you options there. It shows what type it is. So you can just look up Kuretake on Amazon and you'll find a lot of these. And then look up like tutorial videos and how they're meant to be used because they're slightly different from watercolor. One thing I noticed when I was doing my swatches of them, when you do the thick, like the buttery consistency on the far end, it dries reflective. Like it turns almost like back into the material it was on the palette. It does not turn back into a matte finish. It turns into like a gloss or semi-gloss right on the spot where it's the thickest. And you'll notice when I was drying it with my heat gun, on some of them, where it pulls and is thick, it forms like a crackling shell and it kind of cracks a bit and bubbles. So it's probably a good candidate to let air dry. And I think also to not use in its richest form. So I don't think it's really meant to go incredibly thick with the color. I think you're meant to thin this out by a decent degree. So just fair warning, if you ever use it, just keep in mind that it does that. I'll turn it so you can see like the reflections in it, and you'll see what I'm talking about. The furthest left of each swatch is far more reflective than the remaining sections next to it. But the colors are gorgeous. Look at that. This one, cadmium orange. This is that orange I was talking about earlier in New Vegas. This guy is gorgeous. I love that orange. It's so pretty. I love how it shifts to like a yellowish on the side there and it thins out. So pretty. The greens are gorgeous. Blues, just as gorgeous. It's got some of the prettiest violets that I've got. It's got like 3 violet options. Like, I think that's like a royal violet or something, or this one is imperial. This one's imperial violet. This one is cobalt violet. So gorgeous, gorgeous colors. And there's a couple of metallic options on the bottom there, a silver and a gold and whatnot. So we got a lot of options on this one. Hey, Desert. Yeah, they're gorgeous, right? Like it's a pretty set. If you've never gotten one before, check them out. This one's I don't remember how much it was. I got it a while ago. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times 4. That's 18, 36 colors. So yeah, it's a 36 color set. Diox. Yeah, the violets here, there's literally a purple, there's imperial violet and a cobalt violet, and it has its own version of indigo, which I think is closer, might be closer to what Desert thinks is indigo from her set. These are the 2 indigos next to each other, so I can get this in here. This is the indigo from the Kurotake set, and this is the indigo that I use from my main palette, the one from, I think it's Winsor Newton. Yeah, the Winsor Newton indigo. So they're similar, but different from each other, and I'm not quite sure what your indigo does, and whose definition of indigo is more accurate to real life indigo, like the actual pigment, like the actual like staining for clothing and all that stuff. I would have to look it up online. I've always thought indigo was a tiny bit more purple, but maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe it's more blue. I don't know. Let me know. I'm not quite sure what the real difference is on that. So let's get that back over here. So what are we going to use for this? Because there's a lot of options. This is the biggest palette I've got. Clearly not all of them. I'm thinking what I might do is the top 4, maybe 5 red options. As soon as we start getting to this one, we start hitting into orange territory. But all of these and this last one go from the more bluish, like purplish reds down to a more primary red kind of color. They call that one, I think, cadmium red. I know, right? Confusing, but the difference between those 2 are noticeable. It's weird, isn't it? And I'm sure these are different from your indigo that you use. So it's weird how everyone's got their different definitions, but are willing to use the same word. At some point in the future, I talked about this before, but I want to try to get, I think my next set that I'm going to go for and do a full palette replacement within like the next year or more, somewhere in the range. We'll figure it out. Is Daniel Smith. I'm going to go through and get like maybe 4 to 6 of the multi packs to add up to roughly whatever amount gets me whatever palette, a new palette I decide to get to fill it up every spot or close to it anyway. And I'm going to look at getting a ceramic palette that has all of those spots next to each other or around the edge and give myself a couple wells to do mixing in. And then hopefully one with a lid so I can just leave it sitting on my desk and I can just put it away. Hopefully not so big that I can't put it up in a drawer when it's dry and I need to get it out of the way, but we'll see. I'll do the measurements before I do any final purchasing. I'll figure it out. But when I do it, Daniel Smith is what I'm going to go with because it seems to be a great brand. Everybody seems to really love it. They're fairly expensive, so I was going to either get them like one at a time over time, or just get them all at once and bite the bullet, which is like shocking, but we'll see. And then when that time comes too, I might look at getting some additional brushes to supplement what I've got. Or I might do that beforehand. We'll see. You do one by one during sales. I would do that, but that would require me getting up off my ass to go into actual physical stores far more often. And that does not happen. I'm lucky if I get out of the house truly like twice a week. You know what I mean? So, I mean, screw it. I mean, I primarily work from home. And when I do need to go in the office, I only go in one day a week. And then, like, we usually try to go out during the weekends sometimes. But my other half is in and out of the house all day long during the week, and like she's like, I just want to go home and forget about it, but I'm willing to go out because you haven't had a chance. So she struggles to have to go out when I'm like, I actually need to go somewhere. Thankfully, I'm a homebody. I really don't like going anywhere. But you know that. Oh, you know what I'm supposed to do? Write these down. Gosh, why is my? Sometimes when I scoot my chair really far forward, I get caught. I'm between two carpets on the floor, two rugs, and one of the wheels or two of the wheels gets stuck, and I can't roll backwards. At some point, I need to look at getting a like a bigger carpet or rearrange it somewhere. I don't know. It's not on the priority list. Okay, so let's go ahead and go down the list here and write these down. So we've got red, just plain red. Next up, we have carmine. Carmine. Next, we have rose madder. Madder. Rose madder. Then we have rose madder deep. Next up, we have cadmium red, which is where we just start going into orange territory, and that's where I'm going to stop. Cadmium red. All right. And then we're going to go into our blues. I am nearly certain I'm not going to use it. However, due to the glow that it gives, I'm going to paint and try this malachite color, which is very pretty. And I love the stone malachite, so that's pretty cool. It's really wild. I guess because I don't really have a reason to come across gemstones and whatnot in my life. Oh, ads are starting soon, so I'll stop talking here in a second. Needless to say, stones. I used to love them. My mom used to make jewelry and she had a bunch. So I got to actually touch them and witness them. So it was really neat being able to see that. Right, I'm just going to keep writing the names down and I will come back and yammer some more when the ads are finished, whenever they decide to actually start. Okay. Malachite, we've got ultra, I can't spell, ultramarine, pale. Next up is ultramarine. Right. Next up is how I know how to spell it. The other one, the liquid watercolor was like ceruleum, ending with an M and starting with a C-A-E. This one is how I am expecting to see it, cerulean. 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 That's how I would expect it. So the other one must be either something else or it's just a like a European, like a UK spelling of it or something, which is fine. Next up is where I'll stop it, is turquoise blue. Turquoise blue. All right. All right. I have another 2 minutes of ads. Before I do anything, oh, I need to write down what this is. This is the Kuretake set. Oh, I love this song. Let's crank it up. Love furlies. That is what that is, right before I commit to being a total idiot. I'm gonna let Sonata. Yeah, I know it's gonna be an idiot. I think it was one or the other. I always forget. Weirdly, like I've heard it a lot, and especially when I was a kid. My grandmother played piano, not like professionally, but she played it like because she had to learn that as a kid growing up, I'm guessing, and remembered it. But I remember her playing this on her piano at her house a few times. It was always fun to listen to. All right, let's knock these out. And we're hitting 2 hours, so picking out these colors is definitely where we're going to end the night. And then we will do our research into what kind of nebulas we want to choose for our scene. So, all right, I'm going to start the circle and we'll bring it over to the right a little. I did these a little too close together because I have a bad habit of doing that because I'm a big dummy, but let's do it anyway. But these are incredibly pretty, especially when they're thinned out. Oh, I actually had a little more room than I thought with this. Okay. Come on. That's right. For Elise, I think it's for Elise the one that I'm dating myself a little bit here, but do you remember the old UPS commercials? What was that for Elise? Was that the one that's I think it's that one. I'm sorry, I reproduced it terribly. Next up is Rose Madder. Uh, got some paint on the edge of my rinse container. Let me get that off so I don't accidentally mix them up when I'm rinsing. There we go. Next up, Rose Madder Deep. A little bit darker, a little bit purpler. Okay. Whoop, I went way too far south on that one. I really should have spread these out way better. We're going to make it work, aren't we? Okay. Next up, Cadmium Red. It's the last red we do here. Yeah, this is not going to be this is not going to be an even distribution, but we're going to go with it. All right. Eating pizza right now? Oh, we had pizza earlier. It was quite good. Pizza is a jam. So good, so not good for you, but who cares? I mean, eventually you care. At some point, you won't be able to eat that kind of food. Yes, we had, I'm already forgetting, was it Pizza Hut? Domino's? I don't remember. Boxes in the kitchen. I forgot to look at it. I'm gonna rinse and head back over. Pizza, so good. Hey, the magical blue goblin, welcome in. suggested pizza for dinner, but my husband said no, we got Mexican instead. I mean, you can't really go wrong with either option. Mexican food is freaking stellar as well, so. Oh no, it mixed together. Whatever. I wasn't really looking to try Amalekite anyway. Uh is that literally pizza and then Mexican food? I'd have to hover over it to see. I think that first one has a pizza icon. That's cute. Or emote. Oh, weird. It doesn't say. Why does it not say? Let me try on this one. Click the button, Brian. There we go. Yeah, pizza. The screen I've got in front of me, the font's kind of small, so it's like, it's a triangle. I imagine it's pizza, but it could be a quesadilla. I have to look close and see. Oh, it's emotes from your phone, not Twitch. Got it. No, that's totally cool. I love my emotes. I use them way too much. Not in the stars. It's really doing what it wants now. All right, ultramarine pale. Never Mars. My universe. All right, man, I really went off the rails with my alignment here. I put them too close together. All right, ultramarine. In other words, you want donuts now? Donuts are so good. Again, so bad for you, but so good. All right, cerulean blue. It's the one I really care about the most. Let me get a really thick amount of it on there. There we go. All right. I'm diabetic, so I'm limited by how much sweet items are still in my itinerary, but I make do. And if I can't find something, I make it usually. Something that's been on my list that I want to find a way to recreate in a way that honors the original is apple fritters. I miss me some apple fritters. In other words, type 2, the kind that made people cringe and recoil away from you because you did it to yourself versus being born with it, which makes a total difference, right? Have you ever noticed that? Anyone who is a type 2 diabetic or knows a type 2 diabetic, people tend to cringe away from them like, oh, you created your problem. I don't care as much as this poor, sad saps that got it through birth or through their genetics. I don't think anyone deserves any disease, even if they accidentally give it to themselves through poor choices. It doesn't mean because you made poor choices, you're doomed forever. I don't think that's incredibly fair, but maybe it takes being in one of those diseases or having one of them to really notice that. People can be so mean. It's the truth, right? I haven't seen it yet, but I told most people on the phone, yeah, it's a thing. Just know it's a thing. If you ever have to say, "Oh, I can't have that. I'm diabetic," and they're gonna be like, "Oh no, what do you have? Type 1 or type 2?" Because that's always people's first question, not, "Oh no, you can't have sugar. I'm so sorry. Well, let's look for alternatives." No, they jump to, "Oh, it's type 1, type 2," and then the immediate awe or judgment. Oh, it's one of the two. The pick one. Some people are really cool about it and they just are asking for informational purposes like you did. Some people are doing it so they can target how they're going to respond, right? It's just sad. It's a thing. People absolutely do that. Um, at first, I didn't remember the differences. I'm like, I don't remember. Uh, but yeah, when they find out, oh, I made poor decisions when I was younger. If I could go back and change my mind, I would. But would I listen to myself? I mean, I didn't listen to others back then. Why would I listen to myself? So it's probably just one of those things. Once you get that far to have it, you're just kind of stuck with it. Yeah, people suck. They absolutely suck. People absolutely suck. All right. Let's get that over there. Let's dry this puppy off. Let's take them all out and look at them all side by side, along with our image, our reference up above, and we'll figure out what our best options are. But yes, diabetic. Um, I don't know how well you can hear me over this. I'll get really close to the mic. Sorry if I'm deep in your ear right now. Um, Food options with diabetes for sugar is better than it used to be. It's still not perfect, but it's better. Um, it's still wet, but I think it's mostly dry. I think it'll be okay, at least to put it up to the thing. Um, yeah. So, which one's which? I've already lost track. That one is pink. That one is me. My primary palette. No, okay, so got options. Um, yeah. So one, yes, people suck. They just want a reason to be judgy, but whatever. That's who they are. So let them own it if they want. Um, when it comes to diabetic food options, it is a struggle. If you haven't yet, so I am not going to be judgy. I'm just going to tell you if you are early enough that it's reversible or that you can kind of stop it in its tracks, do so. Um, you don't get many second chances in life. And at any point, if you can find a way to stop it in its tracks and reverse it, do it. Clearly, I am no authority on it. I don't even go to the doctor for it. After finding out I was pre-diabetic years ago, I'm just already terrified of going to doctors because one, they're expensive as hell, and two, they're terrifying. That doesn't need an explanation. They just are. No offense to them. What they do and the places that they're at is terrifying. Um, to me and a lot of other people. Uh, but from my personal experience with it, if you can catch it early and be able to stop and reverse it, start making those better decisions then. My other half was pre-diabetic and he was able to reverse it with diet. Um, Still, obviously, we have to be careful because I'm sure it's a slippery slope, right? It's easy to go back the other direction. So he eats very similarly to what I do when it comes to the sugar content, or slightly more on his end, and then I go the sugar-free route. But typically, we eat about the same things. One problem I've seen a lot of people who um, are diabetic or becoming diabetic do as a mistake is they immediately shun sugar-free alternatives. So you might have been at a point when you were pre-diabetic or not even diabetic and you tried sugar-free alternatives and you're just like, ew, it tastes terrible. I hate it. I can't have it. It gives me headaches. It does this, it does that. You make excuses for why you can't have it. Now, when you can't have the sugar anymore, these are your only options aside from going cold turkey and having nothing anymore, right? So I'm not eating sweet things that are diabetic friendly anywhere near the same rate that I was eating sugar things. So I'm already helping myself, I hope, by having a greatly reduced quantity of stuff. But I already am having as little pure, unadulterated sugar as possible. I use Splenda or Equal in my coffee. We use typically Splenda or allulose. or blend in baking goods. We try to completely stay away from erythritol because it's disgusting. Erythritol has already got a lot of, potential problems with it, with people doing research on it, which may or may not be true, but they've got enough fear behind it that people don't want to really eat it. But on top of that, if you take all of that away and it's completely healthy, it tastes terrible. Anything with erythritol has this really nasty cooling alcohol flavor that if you have too much of it, makes you sick to your stomach, or at least makes me sick to my stomach. So it's unfortunate because it's one of the only things that can make a powdered sugar alternative. It's not the only thing, but it's one of the only things that can. And even with that, it doesn't fully replace how powdered sugar functions, right? Sugar crystallizes. That's one of its primary features. And you're able to make it form structures because of that, right? A lot of things don't work with it. Um, my ultimate goal, because it's been a while since I've done it, but I like making French macarons. And I want to try to figure out a way to do a sugar-free version, but it's difficult because powdered sugar is literally a main ingredient in making the shells. Um, and the shells are already finicky enough as it is to make, right? So I don't know if I'll ever be able to make them. Maybe someday someone will come up with a good alternative that's sugar-free and does the same effect. So if so, I will praise them. But yeah, it's hard. Um, but yes, try having sugar-free alternatives. Try them all. If you need to, try them simply in something that you're willing to handle, like teas, coffees, things like that. Work yourself into it, get used to it, and try to replace that, or as some people say, with like natural sugars if you really have to, the ones that break down better for diabetics. Um, but just no pure sugar anymore. Just cut it. And the hardest thing to get rid of too is flour. Regular white all-purpose flour, baked goods, and whole wheat baked goods. The whole wheat's better, but it's not perfect. But standard wheat, anything made with it, is terrible for you. It's literally one step away from eating pure sugar. It literally just breaks it down. Just like white flour, it can be all-purpose cake flour, bread flour, any white flour, right? Because it's already been processed, it breaks down into sugar. The starches do incredibly quickly. So you have to reduce or remove as much white flour goods from your life as you can because it turns directly into sugar as well. It's disgusting to know, but yeah, it absolutely turns into sugar. You may not taste it, but your body feels it. And it just keeps adding to the problem, right? So if you like say, I don't want to have a sweet tooth anymore, I'm going to substitute that with having fresh homemade bread. Just as bad. It just turns into sugar. It's disgusting. I hate it. Um, doesn't mean you can't have it. Just reduce it. Like anything in life, like going on diets. You don't have to cold turkey anything. Just reduce how much of it you're having and you'll do a lot better. But again, not a doctor. Don't quote me on it. Just take it as someone who's been through enough of it to know what can and can't be eaten, that you should try to learn to substitute things that you're having that are bad, the things that you can have, and also reduce them as well, right? Find alternatives. Cold turkeying anything can be unhealthy sometimes anyway. But I mean, why hurt yourself? You already hurt yourself getting to a point where now I'm diabetic. Fuck, now I have to deal with this and changing how I eat. You can find great alternatives that when you've got a sweet tooth, you can have something that is safe, a type of fruit that doesn't break down quite so badly with the fructose, sugar-free alternatives, produced sugar things that still have sugar, like depending on how severe your diabetes is, you can still have a certain amount of sugar in your daily diet, but it doesn't mean let's make my one sitting of sugar be the most intense dessert ever, but in this very small form. I suppose you can do that, but it's probably better if you spread it out through the course of your day so your body has a chance to digest it, right? And then get rid of it. But I wouldn't look to have any pure sugar in your life. It's just It's not worth it. And here's the weirdest thing, like, I used to be a sugaraholic, if you wanna call it that. I was addicted to it. It was in everything, so I just had it everywhere I turned, and I had way too much of it. So, I clearly did this to myself, yes. But when you stop having it, you really don't crave it anymore. It's like any addiction. Like, you might have moments where you're like, "Oh, man, I wish I could have that. I remember how good that was." Well, that's gone. Move on. Like, you lose the craving for it. It's so weird. I'm addicted to sugar, also have a sweet tooth. You know, if you have an opportunity to change that and reduce it, do it. I don't mean don't have a sweet tooth anymore. If you're not diabetic and not near it, you've got a lot more free reign, but it doesn't mean it's impossible to get, right? So, yes, enjoy it while you can. But if you can reduce how much of it you have, you get to enjoy it throughout your life, at least a good portion of it, you know? Versus like being my age, my like lower to mid 40s and I can't have it at all anymore. It's gone, totally gone. Finito. No more of it, right? It's tough. And I wish I could go back and tell myself, don't have those things. If I had stopped having all that pure sugar at X age, I'd be fine now. But I wouldn't listen to myself because I was in the thick of it. Why would I? I'm also addicted to nicotine. I'm trying to quit right now. I'm so sorry. And thankfully, it's something I've never cared for because my dad smoked and drank like crazy. And I could not stand the smell of it. And being around it so much turned me off of it. So I already didn't want to be around it because I was smelling his. And it was like, ugh, gross. Um, but that's a good thing for me. It might not be for you. I think quitting any sort of addiction is incredibly difficult. I mean, I know some people cold turkey it, and they're able to handle that. Some people have to wean themselves off of it a little bit at a time. I'm of the mind of going cold turkey, and if I get violently ill because I go cold turkey off something, it's more of a sign to me that I shouldn't be on it in the first place, right? Like, I mean, I say this being someone who is literally at 6:22 p.m. drinking caffeinated coffee. But I mean, it depends. Like, I don't know when it comes to things like, yeah, see, like with nicotine, I have no idea what cold turkey does to you. Like, it may make you insane. But boy, considering going cold turkey on that could make you insane, that's not a good feeling, right? It can't be. Knowing that you are dependent on it, it's gotta be like a kick in the psyche to be like, "Man, I really need to cut this out." But I'll do that tomorrow. I'm sure it's incredibly hard. There's thankfully tons of ways. It's a bad time, that's for sure. I believe it. I believe it. I mean, see you, Magical Blue Goblin. Have a good night. I'm heading out too here in a few. So you have a wonderful evening. It was great having you here. Um, yeah, it's just tough. It's not cutting out anything that you're addicted to is incredibly difficult, but I imagine a substance that's being sold intentionally to make you addicted to it is far worse, right? It's got to be far harder because they built it to addict you and to keep you on it. I always just wean myself off smoking. It seems like a good idea. Having less of something definitely reduces your dependency on it. That's for sure. The diabetic stuff, though, that was cold turkey. That was just make it go away. It's so sad that you just have to cut it out. But there are amazing alternatives, and there's a lot of great ways to still have those kinds of foods. Many things have substitutes, some don't. BRB, that's good. I'm gonna go ahead and take a look at these and try to figure out like which ones match before I head out. Thankfully, I didn't realize 3 cerulean options. Hey, K-Arts, welcome in. You came in just in time for me to be getting ready to head out here in a few, but we're finishing up what I'm working on now. I have earlier today, I maxed off with masking fluid my Voyager so that it's ready for me to paint on. I will double check it and I might have to touch up, Yeah, I think I see a spot I need to touch up on, so I'll do that before I paint on it. After it dried, I can see the spots that are more transparent and are down to white paper, so I will touch those up so I don't make mistakes. What I'm doing now is planning colors for what's going to go in the engine nacelles and all of like the red and blue areas on the ship. So I use all the paints that I've got, picked out all of my reds and blues, and I did some swatching so I can see like what matches the most to, hang on, this right here, the engine and the red bits, right? So this is from my primary palette that I normally use. So if we look at that side by side, here, I'll even make it a little bigger so we can see a little better. Let me scoot this guy over here. Boop. Boop, 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 boop. All right. Nice. My husband put you on lurk while I was sleeping. Excellent. That's fun. Especially with me. I can only imagine lurking while you've got me on. It's got to be boring as hell. I'm so sorry. Well, I hope you enjoy at least some of it. So let's take a look. So this is from my primary palette that I normally use. It's mostly my Mary Blue and a couple Winsor Newton and some other stuff. But there are my red options. So first up is quinacridone red, which tends to be a little bit more on the orange side. Golden has a pigment matcher on their website. I think I saw that. Unless I'm mistaking the person, but I remember somebody was building a website with like their color matching that they were doing, but it could be mixing stuff up. It's worth looking for. If I can, that's actually a good option. But I mean, I think my bigger problem is trying to use what I've got. And not like going out and finding something new. So if it shows you how close you are with the pigments that you've got, I'll probably use that. But I'm probably just going to wing it with what I've got and then hope that the surrounding scene blankets it out. And if you look at it by itself as a whole image, it will make sense versus comparing it like we're doing right now. I'm just trying to get as close as I can. Other red options we've got here. I'll help with getting close to what I've got. I'll probably look at it off stream sometime because I'll have to find it. And then, unless you have the link to it, and then I'll just save it. But otherwise, I'll just look for it. So we've got Quin Red. We got Primary Red Magenta, which is nice, but it makes me realize that this does have a slight amount of orange in it, in a way, or more of a pure red. So that's interesting to consider. So Quin Red is actually more close to it than I thought. So that's interesting to consider. At least yours have the pigment number on them. Oh God, I don't think they do. Or if they do, I have no idea. Words. I don't think so. Let me take another one just to make sure. I don't think so. It has a number on it, but I don't think it is the pigment number. I think it's the numbering for their internal convention because it's just a whole number with no pigment information in it. It's all of them are just whole number, like this one, for example. And it shows the granulation. And I don't know what the dots are. I have to look it up on their website, but it might be like the permanents. I'm not entirely sure. We'll have to look it up. Yeah, it does not have that anywhere on there, I don't think. And like it in the fine print? No. It does not look like it anywhere on the two. So they might have comparisons online somewhere. but on the tubes themselves, they do not. So this one might be a bit difficult. Yeah, I don't think any of the stuff I have has that. The Kuretake does not. The liquid watercolor inks do not. I don't think. Might. Oh, nope. That's something else altogether then. Yeah, all my stuff is weak sauce. I don't think it has anything. It's very much the same kind of idea where it shows like a whole number and then a number of dots and like a square that's either fully light, fully dark, or partially shaded. So I'll have to take a look at that. So unfortunately, I'm just kind of going by look for a portion of it. Blues on my main palette, none really go close to the color of the engine nacelle. I kind of came to a conclusion that that's more cerulean than anything. So my ultramarines are here, but I don't think they'll work. I've tried using them before. They're not quite right for the engines. So I think primary palette is out except for potentially quinacridone red. Next up is the Winsor & Newton Topman set, which is this smaller set. This guy here. I looked at the red and the two blues right there. That's these guys. It's this Alizarin, I'm probably saying the name wrong, Alizarin Crimson on top. So not quite close. More red, less orange. The ultramarine is pretty, but not quite there. But as I've been thinking, all of my ceruleans are in the ballpark. So that's one cerulean that I have. The watercolor ink options are here. We've got that quinacridone magenta on top. It's far too purple. We've got that cadmium red hue, which is actually really close. That's actually way closer than I thought it would be. That's actually pretty spot on to that red engine color. So I might actually end up using that. We've got flame red, which is good, but more red. More reddish, less orange. Hence the cadmium in that middle one. Here's the cerulean and liquid watercolors, which I also like the consistency. It's very even. It's consistent, so long as I dilute it properly. So I talked about testing dilution of my liquid watercolors by putting a drop of the ink in different pans and add a specific amount of water into each of them that I can easily reproduce, so I can get a good consistent color out of it. So I'm going to try that. I think that cerulean is the best option there too. So weirdly, so far, my vote is for using liquid watercolor for the reds and blues in here. I just don't know how well the liquid watercolor, the watercolor inks mix with standard watercolors. So I'll have to do some side experimentation on that to see if I'll be pulling these up when I paint over them, or if I need to put these on over the top of things. I don't know. It's really interesting. Payne's gray mixed with blue might be a good option as well. I see that for the hull color, that's what I've done before. The color of the hull, like the metal parts of the ship, are a slight bluish gray. So that would definitely work. I have to experiment with a blue and a gray for that bright blue cerulean color, but I think that anything I do that I mixed was just really in the shadows, exactly. Because I've done this before, and it was with blues, and at the time I only had black. I didn't have Payne's gray, which I definitely will use now. What in the hell are we listening to? I'm gonna just turn the music off. I don't want to hear it anymore. I'm almost done anyway, too. I need my C drive, and then this right here, and then this right here, And then that one. And that's not the one I wanted. This one, this one. Yep, this one. Yep. So this right here. Sorry, I need to zoom it in. It wasn't a high quality scan, but this is the Voyager I've already done like a year and a half ago. So I'm trying to I'm not trying to reproduce this one quite so much because it's quite large. And I'm not going for this much like panel detailing. The purpose of this is to have Voyager in the scene, but not really let it take over. It's just going to be one of the focuses. The goal is to um, have that whole scene that I was showing earlier. Move this over here so I can see it. Pick it up. Pick it up. Pick it up. Is to do this right here. Starting to run out of stuff on my screen. Scoot this guy over. Come here. The goal in this guy is to have the Voyager in the corner here. It's going to be at warp. So there's going to be some white streaks from the warp lines showing that it's in motion. And it's going to be heading toward a nebula that we get to figure out over in this corner. So that's the plan. So I tried to have this Voyager smaller than that one I just showed a minute ago. So it's going to be slightly smaller, slightly less detailed, but I'm still going to try to improve on its visual quality to make it look good, but I'm not looking for perfection because I'm trying to put something nice behind it too. So yes. Oh, and last up, the Kuretake set. That's this big set I've got sitting over here. Ended up looking like this. This is what they all came out like. So you've got a lot of red options as well, but the downside to this set that you can kind of see here a bit that I talked about earlier is the thicker this set is, the more buttery it is, if you will, the more of a glossy reflection this paint has. I used to see it really bad on my original swatch. My original swatch set for this, you can see right there in the reflection of the light. When you have this paint really thick and buttery, it gets glossy. And when you dry it at that point, it starts popping and crackling and blistering like this. So you have to go kind of mid-tones and light with this, unless you're willing to deal with that kind of like glossy reflection. But the colors in this set are gorgeous. It's one of my favorite sets, aside from the liquid watercolors, is this Kuretake set. So these are all the red and the bluish kind of options from that set. The red is incredibly nice and is fairly close. The carmine is nice and is also kind of close, but I think it's just a little bit off. I think it's a little bit more red, a little more purple. Rose Madder and Rose Madder Deep are too violet for it. The cadmium red starts going orange, but it's actually kind of close to the red color of the nacelle, so I might end up actually using that one if I use this set. And then for the cerulean, we've got an ultramarine pale, but it's more sky color. It's less neon. And the cerulean that's in here is actually quite nice, but it's hard to get that exact tone. It kind of goes all over the place and it granulates kind of like crazy too in a way, especially on this cheap paper. And turquoise I did just for fun. I knew it wasn't going to work, but it's just a pretty color. But yeah, so far all of my cerulean options are the closest possible colors. And I think for getting these smooth, consistent red and blue, I think I'm going to go with the watercolor inks. They are by far the smoothest consistency out of everything that I've got. And they're just gorgeous. I think the cerulean, I think I can do a mixture of water and ink and thin it out and be able to get that color that I want. So I may do a separate test on higher quality paper on a little cutout and try to get the color and water mixture just right for that cadmium red hue and that cerulean hue of the liquid watercolors to do for the ship. Then I have to decide, what am I going to do? Am I going to put these down first, then paint the ship around it? Or am I going to remove the masking fluid once I've got the space scene on it, mask the engine and all the red and blue parts, and paint the hull of the ship around it, then peel that final masking fluid layer off and hit those red and blue areas, which is probably what I might do? It's tough because if you look at the image, I'll blow it up so you can see it a little better. If you look at the image, there's a glow on everything, right? There's a slight red glow on the side of the ship here and on the side of this engine from the red. There's a blue glow around the engine here that I don't know if I'd be able to recreate. And I don't know if I necessarily have to. It adds that Star Trek glowy light appeal to it, but it's so hard to reproduce, especially on something this big. I don't know. It's going to be difficult. I'm probably going to do it, but I think I might. I have to decide. I'm probably going to have to do practices of doing the hull coloring down on paper first, light and dark, and put these blues and reds on top of them. Then try the reverse option, putting those colors down, drying them thoroughly, and then putting the hull colors on top to see how it acts, to see if I can actually get some glazing of one over the other in a way and in an order that lets me put the other color down on top of it without making like hard edges and whatnot and making it bloom and pull up some of the color from underneath it in a bad way, you know? So I'm going to practice with that once I've got these colors chosen. And then we can try it out on the actual object itself when we're ready to put it in there, nice and slow and steady. But the main focus again is the space theme. I just want the ship to not look like garbage. If the colors are slightly off, it's fine. And if I make tiny mistakes that are covered up, again, fine. And honestly, it's good. It's actually very good that nearly everything here that's got a glow effect on it that I'm talking about is in shadow. So I have the benefit of if something screws up so badly that I don't like it, I can just make the shadows really dark, right? Because I don't have to make it look like it's on television. I can make it look like it's more in space. What light is there really next to the ship shining on it, right? So I can do that, I think. I put it so far away that I can't grab the handle. Let me shrink it from this side and then get rid of it. Okay. So I'm going to hide that now. I think I've got an idea for that. So I went way longer than I expected. So yeah, out of all the color options, even though many of them are absolutely gorgeous for what I'm doing, for smooth consistency, the best option, even on bad paper, have been the watercolor inks. So that is that. Yes, keep in mind, this is the, I think, 36 count set of the Kuretake paints. I don't remember how much they were. I got them like a year and change ago, so I just don't remember without looking it up on Amazon. But this is what the top of the box looks like. So you can see it. In the inside as these little swatches built in next to the name. So you don't have to do a full sheet like I did, but you can if you want to. I figured, hey, cut it to size and put a whole one in here, and I've got everything. And it matches exactly with the placement of where they are. So I can see them at a glance. So yeah, it's a good set. I have to learn how to use them because they don't 100% act like watercolors. They do, but I think they're not quite designed to work precisely the same way. There's a little bit of finesse to it. But yeah, I think that's it. I'm done. I've yammered enough. I think I'm going to skip streaming on Thursday because it's Thanksgiving, but I'm going to come back on during the day on Friday because I have it off and it's not a holiday at that point. So sometime in the middle of the day, Friday is when I will be back. I think I will do some testing like I talked about with the colors from the watercolor ink set. So one test is choosing different quantities of water to the same quantity of the ink in different wells, and then do some tests of the color for each of them until I find the correct quantity of water to pigment that gets me that nice cerulean look on the ship for the engine. And then I think I'm just going to go, I'll do the same thing for the cadmium red hues to find the right shade for the rest of the engine stuff because it's all the same shade at that point. And then truly it's just like a shit of really dark of the same color around some of the fringes of it. Otherwise, it's pretty much the same color. And then we'll do that test of doing these red and blue colors first with the hull color on top, and then vice versa. And then once we've got all of that figured out for the ship, we're going to take a look at nebulas. So the scene that we're going to have in the background on that Voyager scene is going to be some sort of nebula. We're going to go on a hunt to look for what kind of scene, what kind of nebulas we like, and take maybe our top 4 or 6 of them. And then we're going to do a bunch of side-by-side miniatures of nebulas of all of the ones we find to pick the one we want the most that we really like. And then that's the one we're going to do on the large Voyager scene. So I'm properly taking my time and looking at options this time instead of just winging it. I'm halfway winging it. All right, that's it. You guys have a great rest of your evening. Thank you so much for hanging out so long with me. I appreciate you for being here. Let me do, let me move my paint. Okay. And then let me get to my keyboard. Let's do some shout outs. Hey, just in time. Thank you so much. Oh, I don't even know how to say it. I'm going to say Simuligan. Looks like hooligan, but Smooligan. We're going to go with it. Thank you so much for following. I appreciate it. You hit me just as I'm leaving and just getting ready to go. Let's see. We got, did I do it right? Nope, I did not. I can type, I promise. There we go. And then and man, we just had so many people come in today. I appreciate y'all for being here. Man, nope, not here. Oh, it's because I spelled it wrong. There we go. All right, that's enough. That's everybody who came in today. Thank y'all so much for hanging out with me. Please take a moment to check out everyone that you see above. Anyone you see was clearly doing something previously streaming, they stream. And anyone who doesn't, it says nothing. So please check them all out. I, again, appreciate y'all for being here. Have a happy holiday, Thanksgiving, whatever you celebrate, if you celebrate. And I will see you on Friday. I don't fully know what time yet. I'll figure it out. You'll just see me come online, and 10 minutes later, I'll be here. So feel free to pop in. And if not, catch the VOD. All right, guys. Have a great night. I will see y'all later. Bear out. Bye.